All right.
And this our Karen. And now
This
everybody knows what it is now.
Yeah, this is our cairn or can or something.
Well,
A stack of
Up in
stones.
Rhode Island, they pronounce the R.
Okay. So anyway, so let's get rolling here. Be comfortable, eat your lunch, whatever. If you'd like a copy of this presentation emailed to you, put your business card in the bowl. Or if you don't have a business card, put your email on that slip of paper and drop it in there. Make sure you've got one of these Graph of Life printouts, but don't do anything with it yet. Move around if you need to. And let's make this interactive, because otherwise I'm going to be very bored just talking up here. So, okay. So the intro music was, you can read all about it here in the slides when you get them. All right. So pull out your Graph of Life. You have like 2 minutes. Just go through the categories and circle on a scale of 1 being the least and 10 being the most where you are in each of those categories. Go. Love it.
So looking over these categories and looking at, this Graph of Life in kind of a holistic approach, think about how balanced your life is, okay? And give yourself a 1 saying I'm not balanced to a 10 score that I'm very balanced. So come up with that number. Everybody got a number?
I mean, average all these up, or just?
However you want to do that.
Okay.
What? I'm
Just come up with a number on how balanced your life is.
Oh, you mean like an average?
If you want to do an average, that's fine.
All right, well, what's another way? You tell me. I'm asking.
I'm throwing it out for you. How would you do it right now without any direction?
I would do this differently.
Is there a right or wrong
than-
answer, maybe?
There is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, no right or wrong, yeah.
There's no right
I
or
would
wrong.
do
It's
this
only
di-
your answers.
I would do this in a graph, in a
Okay.
shortened graph.
You do it in a graph and a shortened graph. Okay, that's very valid. So, but just, if you had to pick a number on a scale of 1 to 10, how balanced your life is. If you don't want to look at the Graph of Life, if you just had to pick a number out of there, how would you, what kind of number would you go? Is there anybody here that's above 8? 8, 9, or 10? Anybody?
Yeah.
I give
What?
Really?
That's good.
Good for you.
I give myself an 8.
So 8. Okay. So, all right, cool. Got some people. That's pretty balanced, especially in today's society. How about 5 to 7? 5, 6, or 7?
I was on the negative side of 5, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe even a 4.
So a little bit less.
There's things in my life I need fixed.
Okay, so less than 5. You realize that on a B, C, D, E, F scale, you're down in the D's or F's at that point, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, if that's what it is.
So,
I mean,
but isn't that how everybody is nowadays? Just about. Even the best of us are maybe at an 8 or a 9. Nobody gets a 10. Okay? Because it's impossible. So, what does Bach music have to do with balance?
well, you have to have balance in music.
Why start a talk about balance with playing Bach music? And as a matter of fact, isn't this series advertised as Small Business Lunch and Learn? What does balance have to do with small business? I'm confused. Yeah, well. It's a trap.
Oh my God.
So, I'll give you some clues, but you're going to have to stick around for the whole presentation to get the whole result, of course. That's why it's a trap, right? So, Bach signed all of his compositions with the initials SDG. Okay, now his name is Johann Sebastian Bach, JSB. So why is he signing his compositions with SDG? Okay. That's one clue. Another clue is Bach is currently immensely popular in Japan. Who knew? Okay. And the third clue is if you have no balance, you have no business. So in case things aren't confusing enough, let's throw in something else new. Okay. Go have some phrases here. So red, white, and
Blue.
blue. Too large, too small, and
Just right.
just right. Lock, stock, and
Barrel.
Father, Son, and
Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit.
Oh.
Hook, line, and
Thinker.
sinker. Peace, love, and
Harmony.
close.
Humility.
No old hippies from the 60s.
Yeah.
Peace,
Rock and
love.
roll.
There you go.
I think your answer's better. It actually is. We'll get to it in a second. How about the last one? Body, soul, and
Mind.
Or spirit.
I have mind and I have spirit.
All right.
What's the difference? So here's the better answer, or the answers that are more
Understanding.
Oh,
peace, love, and understanding. That was the phrase that was going. And body, soul, and spirit. So, all right. Well, if we think about that phrase, body, soul, and spirit, you ever really think about that? What's the difference between soul and spirit? I see some puzzled looks here. So, it's a deep discussion, but for our purposes today, we're going to go with one definition of soul. Okay, that definition is the animating and vital principle in humans created with the faculties of thought, action, and emotion, and often conceived of as an immaterial entity. In other words, it's not part of your body. It's not part of something you can touch. But it's also specifically for humans, and it's thought, action, and emotion. Okay. The other way I've heard it expressed is mind, will, and emotion. And I think that's where a lot of people started using body, soul, and mind rather than body, soul, and spirit. Okay. But I want to bring in the aspect of spirit is the material, the immortal portion of us, the part that eventually will go to heaven or wherever else you end up. And soul is the non-physical and mortal portion. So the soul won't necessarily transition when you die. Okay? If we can just kind of keep those distinctions around, think about that. Okay? So let's talk about balance as a concept. Okay? What is balance? What do you have to have balance?
Two extremes.
Two extremes?
Things have to be equally weighted.
Equally weighted? Good. Does it have to be two? How about more?
Could be, yeah.
Could be more?
Sure.
What's the right? You have to have at least 2 points.
2 points, yeah.
At least two.
Right.
You can't balance something if you're just one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the right number? Is it 2? Is it 3? The graph of light has 15 to 18.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
right.
got 15, you've got 3 others you can write in there.
Mm-hmm.
Is 18 the right number? Probably not. So how about 3? I like to use, in a secular audience, in a secular world, I like to use personal, professional, and spiritual. Those tend to cover all the possibilities. Okay? So, what does a bicycle have to do with anything?
Have to have balance.
It's easy when
Up and down.
Ever think about how balance is so integral to riding a bicycle? But balance is something that's intangible. You can't see balance, right?
Right.
You can see the effect of balance,
Yeah.
but you can't see balance itself. So there's also the concept of wobble. You're never really perfectly balanced. You're always going from side to side in a bicycle. Okay. As you get better at riding a bicycle, you get to have less wobble. Isn't that like life? If you get better at life, you get to have less wobble in your life. Okay. And what's the other thing about balance? It always has to come back to what are you balancing to, or what are you balancing against? What's your plumb line? What's your vertical? In the case of riding a bike, you kind of know what your plumb line is. Your plumb line is to stay up straight, right? What's your plumb line in life? How do you know how well you're doing on balance in life? Okay. By the way, this is a very interesting and deep topic. Okay, it's something I've thought about a lot. Okay, and I don't know that I have a really good answer. Okay, but I'd like to present to you a Christian model for this. Okay, got 3 parts here, and it's part 1 is based on the 3 items loosely of personal, professional, and spiritual. Okay, but I'm going to use the terms body, soul, and spirit because I think those work a little bit better for this illustration. Okay, so that's my first leg of the 3-legged model. The second leg is based on the Westminster Catechism, specifically question number 1. Anybody have any idea what that is?
Who is God?
Good try. Who is God is a good try, but it's not right.
Oh,
Okay. The question is, what is the chief and highest end, in being a fancy British term for purpose? What is the chief and highest purpose of man? And the answer that they came up with was man's chief and highest end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. Okay? Now these are people back in the 1400s that came up with this, and they were thinking very deeply about it. And so one of the things I like to do is I like to not throw away good stuff from the ancients, so to speak, or from old people, because I think there's a lot of wisdom. And so I think this is something that I'm saying for the second leg of my model, I'd like to throw out as a proposal. That man's chief and highest end is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. The third leg of this model is a takeoff of that. St. Irenaeus, and I'm not sure when he was around, but at some point, he's 1500s, 1600s or something like that. He said the glory of God is man fully alive. Okay? Think about that. Are you fully alive? Are you fully alive all the time? I know I'm not. So, but the more alive I can be, the better I can be to the glory of God. Where I got this model from was from a guy named Christopher McCluskey. He's actually the president of the coaching school that I went to. And he used this quote: "Man fully alive in body, soul, and spirit, the whole being that is a man, gives great glory to God because it literally images Him, images God to the world." Okay? So that was his take on it. And I always have to throw in a Bible verse somewhere in here. Romans 12:1, "Therefore I urge you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service of worship." So there's a lot of biblical support for we bring glory to God by being the best selves that we can be. Okay? So let's talk about the model. So put it in terms of a triangle, an equally balanced triangle at this point. Body, soul, and spirit. what does body really go to? Oh, and by the way, before I dig into this does not imply that we should spend the same number of minutes in a day on body and on spirit and on soul, okay? Balance is going to be different for each individual, okay? And for most of us, we're going to have to spend most of our time focused on the body area, because body is related to the work that we do and the work that we produce. The body produces the work, whether it's working in an office setting, whether it's out growing food, as a farmer does, however it works, okay? The body produces work, but the work also sustains the body. The work, it's a reciprocal relationship. The work is bringing in the sustenance for the body, whether it's food, clothing, shelter, transportation, any of that sort of stuff. We have to work to get that stuff, okay? But then that stuff makes our bodies, supports our bodies, makes it easier, okay? So that makes sense to everybody? Reciprocal relationship. So what would happen with soul? What do you think would go with soul? How about worship? Sorry, I said soul. I indicated spirit.
Yeah.
Sorry. I blew that one. All right. So, what would go with spirit? Worship would go with spirit, right? The spirit is what enables us to worship God. The worship of God fulfills our spirit. Okay? Another reciprocal relationship. How many times have you just been out in just in a setting like maybe seeing a sunset or something, and that's a worshipful experience, okay? But of course it also includes church and Bible studies and prayer and all those other types of things that you think of more as worship, right? So another reciprocal relationship. All right, let's get to soul now. What would go with soul? This is the one that most people find the most difficult to put together, by the way. Okay?
Does it start with W?
It does not start with that.
Okay.
I was thinking in terms of like relational.
Relational. Could be. Very well could be. Okay. The thing about it is, if you're not a believer, Brian, I just hit something on the mic. Am I still?
No, you're good.
doing okay? Okay, good. Wanted to make sure I didn't unplug something here or something. If you don't have worship with spirit, or you don't have soul, and you're just working all the time, you're not balanced, right? You bring in spirit and worship, you're still not totally balanced, because there's this third component called soul, which is not being fed. There's a lot of new Christians that do this. They've been workers, and they get into the church, and they get really deep into the church, and they're just ping-ponging between worship and work. And they'll get burned out because they're not bringing in the soul part. Okay? Whereas some people that don't have the worship or the spirit side, they may be ping-ponging between body and soul, and we'll get to that in just a second. But they're still getting burned out. They're not bringing in the third part that is, in my opinion, needed. So what would go with soul? Last chance.
I think about personal pursuits that are gratifying.
Personal pursuits that are gratifying.
My artwork, for example.
Artwork.
Okay.
You're real close. The word that Christopher McCluskey uses is play. And by play, he means stuff that you enjoy doing, activities that you enjoy doing, but that are not producing stuff to help support the body, and they're not worshipful experiences. Artwork is one of its great examples. Playing music is another one. playing music for the sake of playing music, not playing music to be good enough to be
Yeah.
in the church worship band,
Yeah.
or to have a band on your own to go out live with, but just for the sake of enjoying music.
Enjoying
instead
my
of-
family, my grandchildren.
Enjoy your family, playing with your family. So
So
exactly.
instead of saying relational, I should have said recreational.
Exactly. Well, actually, it's both, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
it can
both.
be, yeah,
It's
exactly.
both relational
Sure.
and recreational.
Absolutely.
So, how many people really feel like they get enough play in their lives? Bill says he does. Yeah. Cool.
Good for you.
Good for you.
That's cool.
What
Care
do
to
you-
share?
what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do to play?
What do you do for play, Bill?
Well, I think that's why I'm off balance, is because the work body part of it, and again, my startup business is what needs attention right now. The rest of those items on the list are generally speaking in the satisfied section. So,
Okay.
family life and play and time with my son and watching him grow and spiritually and all those things seem to be aligned.
So you're doing good in two of the areas, and because you're starting up your business, you feel like this one's out of balance because you.
Yeah,
It's
I
got
rate
more
it
stuff
to
to-
one because I mean
Yeah.
that's where the attention needs to be. So.
Very, very cool.
Mhm.
Very
And
cool.
hopefully that's temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Yeah.
and actually, it's that out of balance that I think gives you kind of a zest for life. It gives you something to
Right.
work towards. So shoot.
It's
Yeah.
wobble.
Exactly.
The wobble.
Wobble.
Yeah, you need that wobble. Kind of
I have to pay a lot of attention right now because my husband's facing a really serious surgery, and so that's kind of got me out of balance. But it's
Right.
temporary.
Right.
So
Well, I was gonna say I was wobbling coming in the door because my ex-fiance and I just ended the end of our relationship.
Sorry to hear that.
that's tough.
And I was driven to come here, so to gain back some soul.
Yeah.
So for me, Dale,
Hopefully there's something.
see, my playtime in the past has always been my hobby, which is video.
Oh, isn't that the
Well, then
entrepreneurial journey
I
there?
retired from my work job, but now I've taken my play stuff and now that's my work.
Right,
So,
right. And if those people remote didn't hear that, Bruce said that he has taken his playtime,
Oh.
which used to be his video stuff, and it's now become his work because he's retired from his previous job, and now his video stuff is becoming his work.
so my passion has now become my work.
Yeah, his passion has become his work.
So I'm so to speak, very satisfied. Okay.
And wouldn't that be the perfect
Yeah.
formula, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And, if the entrepreneurs can do that and take their passion and turn it into their work, that's a great model, as long as they can produce enough work to sustain the body, which is what a lot of entrepreneurial struggles have, right? I'm not bringing in enough money, I'm not getting enough gigs, I'm not doing whatever, okay? And as long as you don't eliminate the worship or the spirit. So,
What I find having done that as an attempt to be an artist is that it started to take the fun out of it when the pressure to produce became so great that the artist block set in, because instead of just sitting in my studio for the joy of creating, it became this pressure to make X number of pieces because I had a sale coming up.
right.
And I had to find some time to say, no, I'm gonna create for the sake of the joy of creating, and I don't care if it turns into anything that's sellable or not. And that's been a challenge to strike that balance.
Right. Yeah. So, when you take on when you take your passion and turn it into your work, it can become not your passion anymore. Especially when you get that pressure, when you get that responsibility, and the stuff that used to be fun is no longer fun. And some people have that relationally, I have to go see my grandkids. Okay, well, no, if it's not fun for you, why do it? Maybe there is some portion where you do, but maybe you minimize that or something. So you have to look at your whole life and have to look at your balance that way.
I was just going to say, for me, with my photography, Of course, it's different because it's not like I got a mat up in front of me and I need to paint on it. I need to go out and find a new mat, you know?
Right.
And so that's what I'm, constantly doing. And lots of times I'll take my camera whether I need it or not, and I'm so glad I took it yesterday because being in Dallas now, I had made my first trip to the North Park Mall, which I had never been to, and they just celebrated 50 years down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the artwork in there is amazing. I mean, I was like floored. I mean, I didn't have my camera when I first walked in, but I had it on the car. I said, oh, I'm gonna go back and get my camera. So I was having a blast. So my next goal is to get a person in there to shoot with. And I even spoke to one of the store clerks in an artistic store. And I can't remember the name of it. They sell like French perfumes or something. So I went in and asked for the manager. He wasn't there, but the gal that I spoke with seemed to think that they might welcome me coming in and shooting and giving them store credit as well as having a model.
Yeah.
So
you're still keeping your passion alive.
Absolutely.
When you go around as a photographer.
yeah, I mean, my senses are, they're always out there. Like my radar is out like all the time.
Exactly.
So regardless of where my workload is at and my expectations, my senses are always out there and always thinking.
But that's part of the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really have a heart for, is to help people that are on that journey. It's one of those, I mean, I'm walking that road myself and it's very fresh, and I've got some great tools and I've had some great mentors around that. So. All right, so what happens when things get out of bounds? Let's say that you do buy into this three-point model, triangle model. Don't Christians, especially Christians, they get out of balance a lot by getting these categories confused. Okay? What about those people that start worshiping work? Can you say workaholic? Okay? They just spend all their time at work and they don't bring in the balance of the other. Or how about the next leg? What if you work at play? Okay? Anybody ever been on like a softball team or some kind of team where you went out for fun? Okay? But there was one or two or three people on there that, I mean, it was like a competition and they had to win at all costs.
Yeah.
Okay. They're turning their play, they're bringing their work into their play. Okay. And of course it goes up the other direction. How about when you play at worship? How about when you go to church or you participate in a worshipful experience, but you're not really engaged? You're not all there. You're just playing at worship. And it can go the other direction too. How about when you worship play? How many gamers are out there now worshiping play? Or how about when you play at work? When you're at work but you're not really doing stuff at work? Or how about when you're working at worship? How many people that are on worship teams work at worship all the time? So when you start doing this, you can get the feeling of overwhelm, frustration, burnout, all those types of negative emotions, and you basically just start shutting down, and you start getting, you basically want to escape. And escape is, when you think about escape, we all have ways that we escape. For some people it may be turning to an addictive substance or something. Alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, pornography, any of those types of things that just numb you out. Okay? It can also be things like maybe just playing games. I don't know how many hours I've wasted on solitaire games in my life, but it's just wasted. Vegging out in front of the TV, or just mindless web surfing. Okay? You think about your activities that way, I bet each one of you can think about ways that you escape. Okay? And how often do you escape and you say, I deserve this. I'm going to take 30 minutes or an hour, I'm going to go do this. And then at the end of it, you feel worse than when you started. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that escape? How is that keeping your life in balance? So, let's start to bring this plane into land here a little bit. Covered a lot of topics here. So, you remember SDG? Remember I said Bach signed his compositions with the initials SDG? Any idea what that stands for? No Bach students in that. It stands for Soli Deo Gloria, which is Latin for glory to God alone. Now, where do you think Bach got that from? Bach got that from that Westminster Catechism that I was talking about. The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. Okay? And Bach lived that. So, let's talk about the Brandenburg Concertos a little bit. I put this in here as much for reference as anything else, but Bach started out live as a church worship director. He had a choir, and some of his journals he talked about how he had these people in the choir that couldn't sing, couldn't carry a note, and all that sort of stuff. So he had all the same problems that we do. But Bach had this incredible gift of writing music, and he actually wrote a lot of his worship stuff for his choir. He wrote it based on New Testament passages, okay? And the movement, kind of flowed through or whatever. I don't understand it. I'm not a musician. But Bach had a special request. He was honored by this great important Prussian Margrave Christian Ludwig, okay? And this Margrave asked him for some music. And Bach basically took a lot of the music that he'd written and he recrafted it into the Brandenburg Concertos, 6 of them, okay? And he gave it to the Margrave, okay? Here's the sad part. The music was too good. The music was too complex for the musicians that the Margrave had in his orchestra, okay? They couldn't play it. So the Margrave put it on the shelf, okay? And it just sat on the shelf. And when the Margrave died, those 6 concertos were sold for the equivalent of $25 in the day. Okay? The story doesn't end there. 100 years later, this German music teacher Siegfried Dinn rediscovered the Brandenburg Concertos and published them and started getting it known, and the musicians were better by that time, the instruments were better, all that sort of stuff. And now 300 years after these concertos were written, the Japanese, which are fascinated by Bach's music, they're digging into all things Bach. They're seeing these initials SDG. They're going, what does that mean? That's leading them to Soli Deo Gloria. And that's leading them to understand that he wrote this music based on New Testament passages. And they're going into the passages and they're studying all this. And there's Japanese that are coming to faith in Jesus Christ that have never met a missionary in their lives, and some of them have never met another Christian. Now, what kind of long game is God playing with music like that? It just amazes me. So, go back to the graph of life, and this time, just go through the squares real quickly. Just this time, put a square around the number where you would like to be in 3 years on each of those categories. And then once you've got that done, write a difference between the square and the circle. And just get a number there. And I'll give you a minute and I'll play some more of the Brandenburg Concerto now that you know a little bit more about what that is. 5-minute sprint? About 5 minutes? Good grief, yeah. This last part will take all the way up. How's everybody doing on that? Close? About that. Anything jump out at you? What can you learn from it? What can you learn from just doing an assessment like this every once in a while?
Well, it certainly gives you the opportunity to put your life in perspective.
Put your life in perspective.
And, you know, I tend to bring in Serenity Prayer into my life when I know, like, if my attitude's not right, or from, let's say, my faith is lacking, and that just is a good refresher for me because I used to work in a recovery environment, and one of the things that I used to stress with my patients that I worked with, and I used to, you know, tell them, you know, there are certain things that you have some management over, and some things that you don't.
Right.
I was going to say the word control because sometimes addicts get into really, in their craziness, wanting to have control over other people because
Right.
it's always them and not them, I mean,
Right.
not themselves.
Right.
So what I used to summarize my discussions with, the only person you can manage today is you.
That's right.
And the only one who can manage your attitude is you. So that if you can work on freeing up the negativity from your mental state and put the focus on yourself, you may be able to find some satisfactions in your life, and so that you can work at keeping the focus on yourself, not focusing on other people.
Yeah.
So,
So focus on what you can control, which is you
Yeah.
and your attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
And use the Serenity Prayer.
Yeah.
Grant me the serenity to
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I
Accept the
cannot
things
change,
I cannot
the
change.
courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that says it all for me.
Yeah. Very cool.
I think it helps prioritize as well.
Helps prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The ones that have the largest gap
Are the ones.
are the ones that need, in my opinion, the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I'm glad you brought that in because priority is a very important part of this. And underneath priority is another word called values. Because what is valuable to you? Okay? And so that's another layer deep on that. Don't
which
have
is like
time
the
to go
square.
into.
The square would represent how much you value
The
it.
square is the value of it, yeah.
But at the same time, when you have these gaps, if you're really serious about shortening up that gap, it's almost okay, what is your action plan
Right.
to make that
And
happen?
that's where a life coach can help you.
Yeah,
You walked right into that, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good segue.
Okay.
Okay.
There's one last loose thread, and I always like to bring all the threads together, and that's the small business. Now, we touched on that a little bit, in that, like Bill, you're focusing on your small business, so you have to get back into a season. You have to wobble more over towards work when you've been away from it or something like that. But I said earlier, no balance equals no business. And I really believe that because long term, if you as the business owner are out of balance, you're going to run the business into the ground at some point or another. Okay? And that's because if you have no balance, you really have no life. It's like the people, the one-dimensional people that are just work people. You know?
Or you
So-
do a lot of things and do none of them well.
Or you do a lot of things, jack of all trades,
Master
don't
of
do them.
none.
Don't do them. Can't do any of them well. That's what I got for you guys. Did I bring all the threads together? Did I leave anything out there?
I'd like to think about it, and you know, I really liked, you know, when I walked in and I saw the cairns on the screen, and whenever, I always felt inspired when I was walking in Narragansett, Rhode Island, at Narragansett Beach. There's a long boulevard that goes along the shoreline, and as many of the cairns that I used to see, and you know, I used to think, now, they almost seem like out of place because they're not up in the mountains, but then again, people are using their creativity to build them. And I always, no matter what kind of a mood I was in, I'd always be re-inspired all over again just by seeing. Because if one person or two people, however many those artists that were building them, if they can do that out of something so simple, then I can do that with all the tools that I have to manipulate in my own.
So you're going to bring your creativity into the tools that you have, the way that people brought their creativity into just building the Kansas.
Yeah. I mean, when I went North Park Mall yesterday, I was amazed at the artwork that's in there with nobody's name attached. You know, I didn't see, I was looking for plates. I mean, those two big, huge orange steel pieces that are in there, and there's nobody's name attached. I mean, it just seemed very unusual. You know.
Did you go to the info desk and ask?
Pardon me?
Did you go to the info desk?
No, I didn't, because I was so focused on taking the photos. But when I go back, I'll probably inquire about it. Yeah, I was just.
I bet the mall was wanting them to charge them
Pardon me?
to have their name on there. Because the mall was probably wanting a commission from the artist to have their
You
name.
might look on their website too.
Yeah.
The mall's website,
Yeah,
they give
that's-
credit.
that's
That's advertising where it's
You
based.
know, you have to, artists have to sign their work.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you are signing it whether you sign it or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I firmly believe that, you know, if you're going to build something, you need to take credit for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how does coaching work? Maybe you should tell the group.
So how does coaching work?
If you've touched on the need to pursue things more deeply, what do you? how does
Coaching
that
is
work?
all about clarifying a lot of things, clarifying your gaps particularly, like the gaps on the page here that are identified. So clarifying, understanding, and it's all about clarifying values, clarifying priorities, clarifying goals, really understanding where you are today and where you'd like to be in the future. Coaching is all about the future and about growth, as opposed to counseling, which is more about the past and about dealing with hurts. Okay? So you work with a coach to get crystal clear on those gaps, and then the coach can help you with action steps on how to close that. Okay? That's really what it boils down to.
And then holding you accountable to those things too?
The coach can bring some level of
Yeah.
accountability, but really, accountability starts with yourself.
Yeah.
If you can't be accountable to yourself, you can't be accountable to anybody else. Okay? And so, part of what a good coach can do is they can bring you enough clarity that you can say, I don't need accountability. I have enough, I can see that goal clearly enough that I want to get there within 3 years, and I'm going to take the steps to do that. And so, yeah, you have accountability partners, and the coach can be an accountability partner. But that's more from the sense of reporting to the partner, not from a sense of they're holding you accountable, because you hold yourself accountable. So, but yeah. So, and the other thing to point out is the coach is not the expert. You are the expert on your life. You are the expert on your vision, on your priorities, on your direction, on your values. Okay? The coach, and that goes for business coaching too. As a business coach, I can't tell you how to run your business. I can tell you how other people run their businesses. I can tell you some good best practices. Okay, but at the end of the day, if you want to run your business a particular way, I mean, right now, if I worked with a business coach for my business, my coaching business, they'd say I was crazy. Because the way I'm running my business right now is totally relying on God and on my stored retirements and things like that. And I'm digging into retirement when I don't, the world would say you don't need to do that.
Your marketing plan is open waiting.
But, I'm just here trying to do what God's telling me to do. And that's my marketing plan, is to do that. So,
Very good.
thank you for allowing me to put a commercial in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important. It's important. So,
But as a business development guy, I always look for the, if I wanted to do business with you, what can you tell us more about that?
Basically, everything gets down to, it's the model that I use, I'll just put it this way,
That's okay, yeah.
is a monthly model. So you're billed monthly, okay? The price is something that we agree on that is a valuable price for you. Typically 2 or 3 sessions a month, typically over the phone, can be in person if people are local. But like I've got a client in Denver right now, so, and so I just meet with him twice a month over the phone. And so that's kind of the organization of it. The price depends really on whether it's more of a personal person, working more on life issues. If it's more of a corporate person where they've got maybe a little bit more money and they're working on stuff that's going to produce a faster return on investment. Or sometimes I take on charity cases, pro bono cases, or some portion of pro bono stuff. So, I may, in my world, tithe part of what I would normally get as a monthly fee from this person. I might tie that back to God by taking a lower amount. So basically, it's all over the board. But the plan is you clarify the things that need to be clarified, the goals, the priorities, the values. You get it real crystal clear on that. You put a strategic action plan in place on how to move forward on that, and then you follow up with reports and other things, other skills maybe that need to be grown. Okay, that's where I can come out of the coach mode and put maybe more of a consultant hat on or something like that. About, like I said, I like to work with small business people. I've got some great resources that I can recommend in terms of things that they can do to build themselves up as a business, those types of things. So, does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Do you have, or
Thank you for doing that.
do you have, and have you, if you don't, have you thought of putting together a flyer about your services and what you charge, even though you have some flexibility?
The flyer that I have at the moment is my website, CoachDale.com.
Okay.
Just got a new revision out Monday,
Okay.
and that's kind of goes through the process.
Okay.
I normally don't publish prices or quote prices because they can really be very variable.
Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes, some people have in their businesses definite pricing for
Right.
certain concrete things, and then there are others where, there's a range of prices.
Right. And there is a range,
Yeah.
For myself right now, I'd say my regular retail price is between $300 and $500 a month for 3 sessions.
Okay.
Okay, those are normally 45-minute type sessions. And there's follow-up via email or quick phone calls in between times. So like I said, that's a regular retail price. That's for more on the business side, business customers. So, and I expect that to go up over time as I get more business customers. At least that's in my business model, is
Sure.
usually what it is.
Well, I know where I just moved to Dallas, I'm already thinking that as well for my business, considering everything that I've been pouring into my business, even, my investment.
And we'll be back together
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now, and the topic is.
That would be a good question.
I'm sorry.
Teamwork, right?
I do believe it is teamwork.
Looking.
Sorry about that.
Brian is looking for me. 2 weeks, that'll be October 12th. If I'm doing the
Yeah,
math.
2 weeks for 12.
So is this part of a series that you're doing with Brian? Yeah.
We are going to be basically meeting on the second and fourth Wednesdays, okay? Except that in November and December, the fourth Wednesdays get into Thanksgiving and
Yeah,
Christmas,
yeah,
so we'll
yeah.
do something different on
Sure.
those. But basically, second and fourth Wednesdays, we've got the list of topics.
Mhm.
They're not really a series in the sense of one builds on the other.
Yeah.
But they're all somewhat
Yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah, why does teamwork matter? October 12th,
October
11:30.
12th, why does teamwork matter?
Great teams win, even against overwhelming opposition.
October.
So
Is
Dale,
that a drum
is this,
roll,
are
Brian?
these, okay, I didn't see, is this charged for these? Or is this,
No.
No, that's what I was going to point
No
out. So
charge.
it's really a great value based on
Okay.
what he's just shared with us about his pricing structure to
Yeah.
be able to come twice a month
okay.
for a free 45-minute
And
discussion.
then lunch and learn is bring your own lunch.
Yeah. That's
I
why
wasn't sure if that was what the deal was there.
Yeah.
And how are you promoting this? Because all I found out about was just from talking to you, so.
Okay. Well, there's meetups. There's stuff on the Creating in Cahoots website, on the Creating in Cahoots.
And if somebody's not
Facebook
creating
side.
Cahoots,
Facebook.
I have it on my website.
The chamber's sharing it for us as well, since we're both members of the chamber.
All right, yeah.
And now that you've been, perhaps you can put it out there
Yeah.
as well
okay.
and help us
It's
get the
been
word
on
out.
my Facebook, my business Facebook page, been on
Okay.
my personal page.
Okay.
I haven't got it on LinkedIn just simply because I've ran out of time.
Okay.
The next one will be there.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Most
doing that.
excellent.
Very insightful.
Nice. and PowerPoint tells me I've been here 55 minutes. Wow.
Is he still alive or is he down now?
No, it's still up.